holiday season, bring the magic of Christmas home with WESN's Joy of Christmas. Relive timeless classics from the laughter to the heartwarming moments that make the season unforgettable.
Hey, like the lamp, not the rat, like the lamp, not the rat!
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God!
Whoa!
Oh, poor baby.
Experience the joy of WESN special productions, crafted to bring you new stories and cherished memories. This year, let WESN bring the joy of Christmas to your home.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Catch the spirit, catch the joy.
Anchors away. May the force be with you.
Only on WESN, your content capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really want
to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
WESN.
Months ago, maybe as much as last year, crime and economy were the topics that I thought the upcoming general election was potentially going to be centered around. The economy, because at the end of the day, no matter what idealistic point of view you may have on any issue, the economy is potentially going to trump that. Pun not intended, yet somewhat appropriate, in the sense that that's essentially what happened in the American election. And it has happened in elections before. And it has essentially proven the point that people are not going to care about special interest X or consideration Y if they can't afford to put food on the table. But then also, of course, comes the follow-up. They're not going to care about things if they're dead or if they are afraid of being killed. And now, as the year is coming close to the end, hasn't reached the close yet, we still have 2/3 or so of a month to add to the record books, for better or worse. And I guess, to no one's real surprise, there has been no other political issue or controversy that has, at the end of the day, trumped the concerns of the population when it comes to the economy and the cost of living, as well as the murder rate and the level of violence. Now, ironically, one of the more recent controversies, the whole Salary and Review Commission brouhaha, which has led to more protests, which I'm not saying that we should be protesting this exclusively. I'm saying we probably should just be protesting more in general. And perhaps if we did so more a couple years ago, it might seem like less of an uphill battle now. It's almost like if we're cramming in the protests like how students cram in studies the night before an exam. We're just doing it, the months before an election. But there's one interesting report that caught my eye, and it was pointing to the fact that, look, at the end of the day, the government could say inflation is down all they want and try to tout it as a good thing. It's a good thing in the sense of if somehow we magically had inflation right now, it would just make a bad situation worse. But the situation is not a positive situation. The fact that we don't have inflation is not necessarily a positive sign in so much as it's a silver lining of, well, at least it's not worse. Because, of course, people now for Christmas are going to feel the effects of the cost of living more than usual, because it's one thing to go month to month and say, things are bad, things are bad, things are bad. But then now when you compare this Christmas to last Christmas, what you have and what you used to have, it becomes all the more stark because the holiday times are a clear and regularly scheduled period of now's the time to enjoy ourselves a little bit, to spend a little bit more money on ourselves and others, but particularly with regards to the basic human everyday needs of food and beverages, or food and water, but now we're scaling it up to beverages. You want to have more than just what you would do on any given month. And according to one report that was getting feedback from shoppers, times are rough. Some items not so bad. Some items in Port of Spain are cheaper than outside of Port of Spain. That one situation kind of surprised me. But part of the thing was consumers being still shocked. That is the words put in the quotation marks on the report. About certain items like rice, flour, beans and peas, dairy product, processed meats such as sausages, cooking oil, flour-based products, tea and coffee. A lot of these things are basics in a household. Okay, maybe you could throw away tea and coffee. Certain dairy products, obviously, but I'm suspecting they're not talking about specialty dairy products like fancy yogurts and de gorgonzola cheese. Probably we're talking about basic cheese, basic milk, eggs, flour-based products, flour, rice, beans and peas. These are staples in a household. The prices are high, relatively speaking. And things like sausages, well, I don't know, if we talk about the expensive sausages, fine. But if we're talking basic sausages, which should be cheap meat options, and that is juxtaposed by the consumers who were asked or who gave freely complaints about the fact that, hey, for Christmas, we have to figure it out, tighten our belt, and do without, and they're getting a raise. They being the government. And it goes back to what I said before. Yes, sometimes perception is reality. And at the end of the day, I don't know if the country, ironically, because we're an unhealthy democracy, we most likely will survive this SRC fiasco. But if we were a healthy democracy, does anyone really reasonably think that the country would tolerate something like this? Now, maybe it's all relative, but I have people who I know, who speak to me, who have said things like, well, in the past, during COVID and just after, meat was not on the menu. Meat. Not buying meat outside as in fried chicken and fast food and burgers and stuff. I'm talking about buying meat at home to cook, which would include cheaper options. not fancy steaks and pork, but mince and basic chicken. I guess thighs now are the economical chicken part to buy. That's essentially what I buy for basically that reason. The workers are protesting, and the everyday consumers are feeling to some extent betrayed, to some extent disrespected. And Christmas is going to rubber stamp that, which makes the timing of the SRC situation even more interesting. They could have at least wisened up and done it well before Christmas, after Christmas, but then after Christmas is Carnival, another period where people are accustomed to spending money, and that's the thing. People are looking at Christmas and saying, we can't do as much as we could because we have to worry about surviving till the end of next month. So the Christmas bonuses and stuff needs to be factored into the budget for January when the next paycheck comes around. They no longer have the capacity, the spare capacity to put a little extra in the spend for December, for Christmas. We're not talking anything fancy. We're not talking about steaks. We're not talking about lobster. We're not talking about shrimp. We're talking about standard Christmas fare. Spanish rice and, well, ham. Ham prices might not be so bad because ham is imported. Certain beverages. Apparently, some people are looking at foreign rums because, you know, apparently, who knew that when you cut off sugar production, thereby removing a local source of raw materials, you might then have your local alcohol production be subject to price fluctuations based on importation and or the foreign exchange rate and or any other factor that might cause cost overruns on importation. Yet somehow, Guyanese and Jamaican rums are coming in cheaper than our rums. I thought we're the manufacturer of the Caribbean, right? We take pride in that, and perhaps a little too much false pride. It's our snacks and our soft drinks on other island shelves. And yet, for a nation that enjoys fetting and partying, it's not our rum that we're going to be drinking for too much longer. Not if we want to afford it. Meanwhile, let's take 2 seconds on the crime situation. Another murder in the early morning, 6 a.m. A businessman named Mayor Shogunas is basically calling out the government. Did not deliver on big promises. Here's the issue. It's not just the murder rate. The police could say, oh, well, it dropped for November, all they want. It comes back to 2 things. One, I have said before, the detection rate. It needs to be higher if we want this to matter. It doesn't matter if the murder rate drops to 100, but all of the murders go unsolved. It will only be a matter of time before it jumps back up again. More importantly, the level of violence. Some of these murders, utilizing automatic weapons, up close and personal, gunning down people. I'm not entirely sure if this one was that. But it's a hell of a way to live when you're looking at a murder report and the silver lining is, well, a pistol was used and only about less than 10 rounds of ammunition fired off. So you could say, well, at least there was less risk, not no risk, but less risk of collateral damage and people getting caught in the crossfire and all of that jazz. And these criminals did not necessarily potentially have the means to execute a more violent, more aggressive attack, which over time, too many such attacks will lead to more and more collateral damage and more unintended victims. It's just the percentages. It's not a matter of if, but when, if spray and pray attacks continue to be the norm, and we've already had collateral damage on unintended victims. But if they continue to be the norm, statistically speaking, innocent bystanders, their victimization and murders will only increase. There's no reasonable expectation besides that. So, what's being done about that? At a time when some American news outlets, I've seen at least one, where they are lamenting the violence of the Venezuelan gangs being worse than the Mexican gangs and the other Central American gangs. Meanwhile, we have an open border, and we are essentially holding our breath. Whether you know it or not, we are, with regards to what extent will transnational crime further impact our local crime. And it already probably has, given the level of violence and the availability of more higher-powered weapons to our gangsters. Street gangsters have assault automatic weapons. That is not something that would have been said approximately, 6, 7 years ago. And now it's more the norm. Pistols are, to some extent, an exception to the rule. What's being done about it? But the reason why I say we're holding on with bated breath is because it could get worse. I don't want it to get worse. It's just that there doesn't seem to really be enough things to be an obstacle making it more difficult for things to get worse. What is in the way of more violent criminals and more violent criminal practices and more high-powered illegal weapons from entering the country, from getting in the hands of our triggermen on the streets, and further impacting what it is we see? Because part of the reason why the violence escalates is each gang wants to intimidate its rivals. So where do you go from automatic weapons? Do you go multiple automatic weapons? Do you have a St. Valentine's Day massacre? Do you go with explosives? Do you go with sniper rifles? We saw a couple of those be confiscated. Where do we go from here? I don't know. And I don't want to know. I just have no confidence that we're not going to get there, wherever there may be, somewhere worse off than we know right now. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll hit one topic of the Daily Review this morning, and then hit the press conference after that. Stay tuned. Minister of Finance's press conference on Friday. But this is Talking Point on WSN today, and we'll be right back after this.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Barbie,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, bicycles and tricycles.
Greco, and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces flagship McLean, Movitown, Port of Spain, Eastgate Mall, and M6 Plaza Endeavour. Merry Christmas, everyone!
¿Qué camino cogería si cogióle la desgracia? ¿Qué golpe no llevaría? ¿Qué golpe no llevaría? Una mujer me llamaba, pero yo no le...
All right, so let's get straight into today's daily review. Cue bumper. So, there seems to be an interesting development with the succession of the PNM. That is to say, not just the political leadership, but now the candidate for the representative of parliament, or the member of parliament of Digicel Martin West. Now, there was a report that said that Dr. Emery Brown was tipped to be the replacement to Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, except Dr. Brown has now had to come out and say, no. No such thing has happened, and any report that suggests that it is to be so is not but political mischief. It's a very interesting report. I do believe that the media contacted it when the first initial story broke that he may be the replacement, as to try to get comment for said story. But then now, he did not necessarily indicate such a strong stance to the press then. I could be wrong about that, but that's the impression I got from reading the report. And they are, of course, putting his words into text. Now he's come out with a Facebook page that has very specific and strong language. Now, that's part of it. It does make me wonder, to what degree is this correct, political mischief. Now, Dr. Rowley, our Prime Minister, he has not necessarily said with certainty that he's going to retire. He's just hinted at it. And this is like the third or fourth time he's hinted at it. He's done so before. And so when he came into, at the start of this term, he did so. Somewhere around 2021, 2022, I believe, right? Which would have been a year into the new term, a year or two into the new term of his administration. So one of the things is, analysts and commentators are basically saying, well, he needs to come out and say what's what. Although I would question, perhaps he is purposefully not coming out to say whether or not he's going to retire for sure. In part because he's a lame duck if he does. I said before that he's a lame duck Prime Minister, assuming that he's going to retire, and we already saw some fraying in the party's discipline. And yet, all of a sudden now, everything has become tight-lipped. In fact, there's even a suggestion with regards to all of the selection processes and screening processes for MPs that perhaps Laventille East MP, Leonce, his comments on, I don't necessarily think this to be true, but it came out from the opposition, so I'll mention it now, because I did think of the possibility. Said that perhaps he was pushed out because they didn't like the fact that he said he didn't think it was going to happen when the government didn't make a decision, and now, at least right now, the indicators are, it hasn't necessarily been formally put through, they're going to accept the SRC recommendations. He was the one government member to say, I don't think it's going to happen. Not just to say that, but to comment on it. Other MPs that the media ask for comments on that to give their opinion, ask for anonymity to cover themselves when they said they don't want to talk about it, which I still can't get over that fact. I am so afraid of being implicated by speaking about this topic. I'm going to say that I don't want to talk about it, and then I'm going to ask for anonymity so that my name can't be even attached to the fact that I told the media that I don't want to talk about it. What does that mean? How bad is this thing? Is this hot potato for politicians? Such, I don't know. But that's one speculation from the opposition, which I still don't necessarily think it's true. Given what he said, I would like to take what he said at face value, but given the current political environment, that's hard to do, right? And we've seen other things like this before. But ironically, the human in me hopes that the MP of Laventille East is not actually going through some personal struggle, because how could you hope for him to be going through some personal issue like that? But then, of course, for the wider conversation, the implications are not so nice if his excuse is merely a public excuse. So I do wonder if perhaps one of the things that's keeping the PNM together, I always thought the Prime Minister was keeping the PNM together for the last 10 years, particularly in the last 5. And I do wonder if, ironically, to manage the situation, he has to be ambiguous in order to try to set up what he thinks will be the best way moving forward. He is the only candidate being considered for Digger Martin West. He's the only one. And now it seems as though Senator Brown and other senators have been tapped for other constituencies to go up for elections. Senator Brown, Minister of Foreign Affairs, he says to attach his name to the Digger Martin West seat is political mischief. Why would he say that? Well, the basic part about it is, it might sound as though that's what he wants, and he's leaking to the press and to the party. That will look like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you trying to force our hand? What, you have some kind of agenda? I'm not saying that he does. I'm saying that's what it could look like. So he's forced now to come out and speak against it. Ironically then, the question is, who put this out there in the public sphere? Is it one of MP Brown's political opponents that wants him to proactively stay away from Digger Martin West for whatever reason? Is it the MP himself that wants to throw the idea out there but then disassociate his name from it? Who knows? I mean, all of a sudden we get leaks from cabinet, more on that in a bit, right? Leaks coming out. So this is a situation where I think it's more important than it appears, but we have no way of knowing to what extent, right? And more importantly, this could just be, it's more important not in the sense of this specific situation with Dr. Amy Brown is not the part that's most important. It might be important, but this is probably the tip of the iceberg to something wider going on in the party. What it is, I'm not entirely sure. It's not outside of reason to say, once again, that the Prime Minister, he himself can't just say it's his last term and then essentially be a lame duck and watch the vultures descend. Because I always said, no matter what criticisms I had of Dr. Keith Rowley as Prime Minister, I shuddered at the potential alternatives. Not all were bad, but the fact of the matter is, there's been a lot of rumors saying a lot of people want to take up the post of political leader. A lot of people have political ambitions, just like he did. But at the end of the day, he was the guy that kept the party together, a whole host of personalities, some of whom the public, for various reasons at various demographics, may have a hard time trusting. What is it going to look like without him? And I'm not entirely sure if the party is prepared for that answer, much less the nation. So we get where we get. And now we'll see how things unfold. Hopefully no one is treated unfairly because of it, but they already have questions about that in the public sphere. Now, I want to switch gears here because the Minister of Finance had a press conference on Friday. After speaking at a press conference, or speaking out publicly on Thursday, I believe that was post-cabinet, but this one was Ministry of Finance, because he had to follow up given the commentary that came from his initial statements in the first press conference. And something interesting came out of it. So, for more on that, it's time to cue this.
Mr. Ramdas. Why did you share all of this information yesterday? It's so comprehensive today. I mean, why not come with it yesterday?
That's a good question. I went yesterday to speak about what I knew. Okay? You see, I listened to what the reporter said yesterday, and they were talking about a Mott MacDonald report, and it didn't have a date. Well, I looked at the Mott MacDonald report, and it looks like it's January 2024. It, in fact, is not dated. If you read the first paragraph, you'll see they're referring to site visits in December and in January. So that's a January report, because I do remember that report came in. So that's 10 months ago, okay? And what Mott MacDonald was doing, my understanding, was that if we don't take the necessary care, if we're not careful, this is what could happen to the project. The reference to failures in specifications and so on, that is completely out of context. That relates to that letter I've given you from NIDCO, when NIDCO was saying that they were of the view that CEP had signed off on a design that was inadequate. You follow?
But to Anna's question, I do want to remind you that a lot of this information that we are getting here...
But hold on, let me go back to Mr. Ramdas. I just wanted to be careful. I could only deal with what I know.
No, that's what I'm getting at, because a lot of what we are looking at here is a cabinet note that you brought.
Yes, but
so you would have known.
We don't normally reveal cabinet.
But you would have known.
Yes, but we don't reveal cabinet material. There were no dates, there was no specificity with respect to the questions being thrown at me. And a lot of the information that was thrown at me yesterday was not in the cabinet note. It's just people doing their own calculations and so on, like the 338 million. I looked high and low for that. I couldn't find it, so I had to go and do some arithmetic and add up numbers, and oh, that's where to get that from.
You'd understand that's a little worrying to me, that had we not gotten access to this cabinet note, that we may have never gotten this information.
I'm sure you'll have got it in due course. Remember, this is a live project, it's an active project. We're pushing it up and finished. And nothing is secret in Trinidad and Tobago. This would have eventually come into the public domain.
But is there a need for more ongoing communication, like to give the media regular briefings on these things?
That's a matter of opinion. I felt today, based on what I was reading, it was necessary to have a second press conference. I thought it was appropriate because I was seeing two things. I was seeing a statement that my word was not good enough. So I bring the documents. So there was that point, and then the numbers, there was an arithmetical error in the numbers. I thought, let me go and clear this up. And then I also saw that consultancy costs were being added to construction costs. So different elements of the project were being added, and then the arithmetic is not correct because in the same cabinet note you see the land acquisition is down by 50 million. So do the thing properly. That was my view. If you're doing it, maths, do it properly. Say that construction cost is X, new construction cost is Y, supervision cost was Z, new supervision cost is A, and so on. So I just felt it necessary to clear all of that up. To answer your question, Mr. Douglas, I can't really tell you that. I mean, possibly. I've had 2 press conferences in 2 days, so I thought it was necessary. I think it depends on the case before us.
My other question, concerns about leaks in cabinet. These are supposed to be secret.
Not supposed. I think they would say on the top of it is secret. I have no idea how that got in the public domain. I don't know.
Not concerned about it. The fact that it did.
There's nothing I can do about that. As I said, nothing is secret in Trinidad. I can't. How am I supposed to deal with that? I can't. So the information is out in the public domain, okay? There's nothing to hide inside of there. I mean, I've come and I've confirmed the numbers, so nobody's hiding anything. Question about leaks in cabinet, I can't really know that.
There are a lot of things to unpack here. First of all, a lot of this comes down to how you want to account for the figures, right? Because ironically, the press, two different daily newspapers have two different figures, or at least the implication of their articles imply that the core figure that we should be looking at are two different figures, right? Both of them, I think, actually have most, if not all, of the same information, but how they interpreted the minister's words and what the cost overruns were and what should be factored in are different. Then there's the minister himself, who has his own interpretation of events. Then there's the opposition leader, who had her own figure, which is the highest end figure for the project, right, at $500 million. Now, is it going to be $500 million? Not entirely sure. This gets murky. Here's the thing, though. I think at the end of the day, we need to understand politicians are not the most accurate communicators, and we have to give some sort of, for lack of a better word, we have to compensate for that. We have to understand that and make allowances for that. So when the opposition leader says there are cost overruns, it seems, based on what the Minister of Finance said, that the government's position was, well, the cost of construction only had this 2% increase. And he's saying it's incorrect arithmetic, depending on what you want to add to the figure. Because these other things in the project are costs, but they're not construction costs. This is the impression I get. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but my thing is, wouldn't the most pertinent figure be the total? Why would land acquisition and other project management costs and other things and claims made by the Chinese company that they basically recommended to start paying off and they'll sort it out later, these things should all be pertinent, because the claims part is where right now, one of the daily newspapers, I'll say The Guardian, credit to Keejan Haynes with his questions and follow-up there. And his article has it, well, in his opinion, and I'm most likely going to agree with him, 118 million more in cost overruns. Because we're talking about the project, not just how much it costs to build the terminal building. Because it's the airport project. And we want, for the interest of public debate, the overall figure should be the debate. Because we're talking about spending public money. So why is it now that the Minister of Finance wants to kind of cut it up into pieces and then seems as though he wants to kind of ignore some of it? Now, again, I understand. The funny part about it is, this might be how they actually do things internally normally with regards to how they consider it, how they speak about it, how they make decisions about it. They separate the things and they're like, why are they lumping everything together? Because how you manage things on the inside does not equate to how the public must perceive things on the outside. Now, if the minister really wanted to be on top of the ball, he should have done more to kind of explain, this is the opposition leader's figure, this is our figure, and why there's a discrepancy. Didn't seem like he really did a good job of that. Because he's saddled with the other issue at hand. And it was in this press conference that's why I pulled that specific clip. Because he basically said, I could only speak on the things that I knew, to paraphrase. And that the things that he was being asked at the post-cabinet press briefing were not included in the minutes. But my situation is, one would assume if you're going to speak about it after post-cabinet press briefing, then the process in my mind for a functional government, for a functional cabinet would be this. Minister of Finance, who I do not expect him to know everything all of the time, but going into a cabinet meeting where he intends to have a post-cabinet briefing afterwards, he will go to the cabinet, hey, this is what's going on with this project. This is all the stuff we know. We should know it because we did it. This ain't something about some agency that we don't have direct control over, like the TTPS doing something. This ain't something like the opposition or some other political party doing something. This is our project, right? Let's not forget. This is, we believe, the Prime Minister's legacy project, because that's what all these Prime Ministers want. We had Piarco, we had the waterfront, we had the Children's Hospital that was half an adult hospital, and now we have this. The new Taj Mahal. That hopefully is not going to be a white elephant, but opinions may vary. I understand, I'm not here to debate that. What I am here to debate is, you're going to have a cabinet meeting, then you're going to have a post-cabinet meeting to bring up said subject and not be prepared. Because it seems as though the minister was not prepared. I don't need ministers to be always prepared all of the time. But this was not a press conference where he came to speak about some tax or the price of something, or something about the central government, or even the Auditor General, and they ambushed him with these questions. This was a post-cabinet briefing. This was a topic of national importance. So, why was he not prepared? Because this was a cabinet note that he brought to cabinet. And therein lies the other thing, because he wanted to say that some of the things that he was asked about were not in the cabinet note. And I wonder how true that is, because if my memory serves correct, I actually did not double check, but if my memory serves correct, some of these reports were attached to the note. And the note was asking for extra money. And the extra money asked for in the note was in excess of what he said on Thursday. So to what extent was the figures that the reporters talking about not included in the cabinet note? It's not 100%. It's not 100%. And then, okay. So by that measure, I think the Minister of Finance is trying to mamagaya us a little, play us for fools. But let's say he's not. The implication, and I believe one of his political opponents or another analyst, a political analyst or economist, I think it was Dr. Sheikh Mohammed himself actually, came out and said, well, are you trying to tell us that you just don't know what's in your own cabinet note that you took to cabinet with recommendations from your own ministry, with requests from your own ministry? Is that what you're trying to tell us? And then it's almost like, you know, like the same ministry that couldn't finish its work by the deadline for the audit, so then had to come at a later date after the deadline, the legally defined deadline, and then want to slip in things because we don't want the Auditor General to put a disclaimer that she received it after the deadline and that she can't actually verify the source of these things. She can't confirm them. She's not 100% in agreement with the documentation to just put them in. So she'll put them in with a disclaimer, oh, that's a problem. But again, why did all of that stuff happen after the deadline? Why were mistakes made? And why is it that it seems as though the Minister of Finance seems to have a leaky memory? Because the note was not just about the 2%. I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about that. I have no issues with anyone correcting me. But again, it could be, and this is what I believe is the case, for whatever reason, either they're doing this to argue semantics and trying to be smart men. Well, the construction costs, and it's not these costs, and those are other costs, and we have to keep them separate. And they want to keep them separate to justify their initial position, which is the Prime Minister saying that the opposition leaders' claims are rubbish. And this is how they want to do things, but why should we accept it that way? Why? What's the point of you talking about the cost of this project if you're not talking about the full figure? No matter what the reason is, whether it's legal costs, whether it is all kind of fees, whatever it is, the total cost of a project is the total cost of a project. That's what the public cares about. They don't care about the technicalities with regards to how do you define the cost and what is the correct arithmetic. First of all, technically in this situation, Minister, it won't be that the arithmetic is wrong. It's that the accounting is wrong. Because it's not about, you're not arguing that they got the 1 + 1 = 2. No one said 1 + 1 = 3. What you're arguing is what is to be included. That's not arithmetic. But then, the pièce de résistance, towards the end, the minister said, well, nothing remains secret in TNT. Oh, I think there's a whole lot that remains secret in TNT. And if we knew the truth, we would either run away, far away, we put our heads in the sand and wait for the end, or we'll do something even more drastic and final. That is the level of despair that the truth brings. And sometimes it is right for a government to keep the truth from the public, and many times it is not. Many, many times. But that hasn't stopped governments around the world, much less this one. And it's not just the government that is putting that into practice, or politicians, many, many, many things. Yes, we might hear rumors, but to say that it is out in the public sphere as facts, there are many things that are not. So I find that interesting from the Minister of Finance, that statement to be very interesting. But also, he also tried to say he wasn't concerned about the leaks. Cabinet note was leaked. And it caused you to have to make a correction the very next day with your initial statements. Unfortunately, neither outing has improved the perception of the government's position on this situation, which makes me wonder, how could you not be concerned about leaks, given that you can't manage the fallout from the leak? At least not very well. More importantly, what else could be leaked then? If a cabinet leak is of no concern to you, what else could be leaked then? Why don't you just publish cabinet minutes at that point? And like Keishan Haynes said, what would have happened if they didn't have a leak? And is this tied to the whole situation where all of a sudden the discipline of the PNM is not what it was? Because at the end of the day, when you start something potentially on a bad note, why would anybody be surprised that the precedent set will allow more bacchanal to happen? And I'll leave that there. Let's take a break. We'll welcome the SP when we come back.
Bring the magic of Christmas home with WESN's Joy of Christmas. Relive timeless classics, from the laughter to the heartwarming moments that make the season unforgettable.
Hey, like the lamp, not the rat, like the lamp, not the rat!
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God!
Oh, baby.
Experience the joy of WESN special productions, crafted to bring you new stories and cherished memories. This year, let WESN bring the joy of Christmas to your home.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Catch the spirit, catch the joy.
Anchors away. May the force be with you.
Only on WESN, your content capital.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for, it's called loss and damage. And we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Bobby,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, bicycles and tricycles.
Greco, and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McBean, Moviton Port of Spain, Eastgate Smart, and M6 Plaza Endeavour. Merry Christmas, everyone!
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
I'm back and talking about the WSMD Con Encounter a little late, but we still have our TTPS Media Ambassador, Acting SP, Christopher Arun. Good morning, sir. Welcome back. I mean, technically back-to-back on broadcast days, but have a minor topic to get through. Of course, some general awareness you want to make for public safety on the Christmas season.
Yeah, of course. You know, the TTPS has been on a drive to ensure that we bring awareness to the members of the country, citizens, about public safety, especially around the Christmas period. So we're back into the Christmas season now, and we would like persons to be aware of their surroundings. We call it situational awareness. We want persons to take cognizance of the issues, crime around them, the persons around them, when they traverse the nation's roadways, shopping areas, public spaces, private institutions like banks, financial institutions, and whatnot. Take a lot of cognizance in where you are. So it's called situational awareness. It's basically being aware of your surroundings, who's around you, and utilizing whatever resources you have at hand to ensure your own safety. For example, you might be a shopper, you might be going to the mall, you leave your significant other at home, your spouse at home, or even your kids going out. We all tend to be on social media these days. Let's use it to our advantage. We're saying to the members of the public, if you have access to social media, use the apps that you utilize all the time. For example, there's something called live location or current location. You could send it out so your own family could track your whereabouts if necessary.
Privately, not
privately, of course, yeah.
Because one of the things, okay, we all hope that November might be the start of a trend. Not a trend yet with regards to the murder rate. But that doesn't mean that you can't be attacked and then for whatever reason, you know, robbery, homicide situations happen. So people can't take it for granted. I think despite the fact that people are like the murder rate is high, too many people still take it for granted. Now we're safe. And I'm just like,
Well, they don't think that they would be victims unless it actually happens to them. So, you know, they're there in ambience to what's going on out there. They don't believe that they can become victims themselves. You have to be aware that at any point in time, you or me, we could be victims at any point in time. So we want you to take a lot of precautions when you're out there. Shopping, going about your daily business. Take cognizance of the fact of your surroundings and what you do.
Yeah, and like just myself, you know, at the house, we have been victims of crime. Ironically, I don't really think we've been victims of crime outside of the house, knock on wood. But when I was a child, we got burglarized, you know, and then we got carjacked. Yeah, like all of this happened before the current crime situation, right?
Well, one recommendation I would like to make and want to make is that we need, the police have always, since I've known myself, the police have always been asking persons in society for assistance. We tend to get a lot of information and intelligence from members of the public. What we want persons to also as well assist us with is us assisting them in the sense of let's assist the police to assist you. Let's look at car alarms, vehicle theft. Right? Is a car alarm enough? Should we employ other devices? Should we as citizens also put in GPS? Should we also put in kill switches? Should we have more than one anti-theft device attached to a vehicle? You're living in a house. You have the capability of being robbed or burglarized. Sometimes for no reason and sometimes for Sometimes, I'm not saying there's a reason, but sometimes you might have some property that others deem necessary to take from you. Maybe it might be best if you have that alarm system in place that could alert a security company, alert the police, and maybe even alert members around you. There's a burglary or something taking place in your home where we could have these loud noise alarms that goes off at your home in case of such an event happening.
I think, do you need more than one is a car alarm enough? No.
No.
I have something else in my car to try to make it difficult to be stolen. When I'm shopping, for whatever, it's not that I shop a lot, but of course it's Christmas time now, so this is a consideration, right? I am not the kind of person to say, well, I'm going to go to this mall, shop, leave stuff in the car, go to the next mall, shop again, and then hope that my car isn't interfered with.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not...
Persons are investing thousands of dollars into their vehicles. They purchase vehicles for thousands of dollars, and a GPS alarm system might be $600, if you understand.
Also, even if it's just for your everyday items, I know of one case where they broke into the car, not to steal the car, but to take whatever was in the car. No, they didn't know what was in there. They didn't even take any electronics. It was nothing like that to take.
Right.
It was a fishing expedition, basically, and they took whatever they could grab.
Crime opportunity.
Crime opportunity, right.
Right, so when you leave packages, so you're shopping from mall to mall, bargain to bargain, and you go and you place your items in the open back.
Yeah.
Or they might be monitoring you and you put it in the trunk. That's a dangerous issue.
And it doesn't have to be expensive.
It doesn't have to be.
It could be a $50 gift for your neighbors next to you or something.
They're going to break in your window and steal the package just to see what's in there.
Yeah, and you're not going to get back.
And maybe even on your deck. So we have to be realistic.
Opportunity, yes.
So we have to be realistic. We have to be realistic. Yes, we're not where we want to be in terms of solving crime, preventing crime. We're on the go with it. But let's help the police. Let's help ourselves to help the police assist us.
I think also this is where community watch groups are a good thing once the community participates.
No, you're correct.
Right?
You're correct. Let's get the entire community involved.
Because the whole air foghorns, you know, I hear it every now and then in my neighborhood.
Right.
You know, it makes me, you know, it gets me frightened every time I hear it.
Yeah.
Right? Usually it's a bit further, it's not like right next to me.
No, but imagine,
then I'm concerned who is going through what.
No, but it's better you have it than you don't need it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but every time I hear it, it's like, it's basically somebody's going through something.
Yeah.
And I hope that whatever it is they're going through is...
And then the TTPS embarked on this, I think it's Eagle Eyes.
Yes, in Tunapuna.
Right, and that worked excellent. I remember working in Tunapuna for Carnival, and I was in the room that monitors, and we actually saw when somebody got shot, and they came into the purview of the camera system, and we were able to deploy an ERP unit to that location and help the person seek medical attention and find the suspects.
So I would say...
I think that should be employed throughout.
It's supposed to be. It was hoped to be.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's to some extent privately funded. So now, like, I'm sure, listen, I'm not going to knock wealthy communities for doing this. If they could get a camera system which will be accessed by the police service and work in conjunction with the police, I'm not going to knock them for doing it. And private businesses and so on, and then we could maybe get corporate sponsorship for low-income areas. You know, the whole thing is, if you make it harder for crime to happen, then it's easier. You're strangling the opportunities off. It's easier than when it does happen to deal with what does happen.
So, could you imagine a society now? It's so difficult for us to get the crime under control, but when we have all those resources at hand, the cameras, the alarms, anti-theft devices, we're making it harder for the criminals to succeed. This is the idea. We're being realistic here.
I think, and we need to understand, I'm not going to wait. I don't think we could wait on the government to deal with all the cameras for whatever reason. Now, with that said, also with communities, I think one of the things, there's a catch-22 with witnesses. It's one of those things where if you're the only one in all of society that's willing to give a witness statement and appear in court, you will be the one lone nail sticking up that might be hammered down. But if we all are willing to give witness statements, all of a sudden criminal threats will be less effective.
One thing people could take as some security with respect to the witness statements, with the invention of the AJIPA system coming into effect, what it does, it takes you out of the box. So if anything happens to you as a witness, your statement stands on your behalf.
Right.
So once it's sworn in, so imagine you give a statement, so it's not like you go in the box like long ago and you give an oath and whatnot.
Right.
If something happens to a witness now, that statement stands in place.
It actually makes it hard on the defense.
It makes it harder for the defense. They can't cross-examine somebody that's not there.
But that is in line with the point I was trying to make, in the sense of it's kind of like we don't negotiate with terrorists. If we all give in to the criminals, well then it'll be harder for anyone to kind of push back. But if we all push back, it's harder for them to intimidate and use violence to essentially, take reprisals out on whoever is giving with the statement.
If you go to a shopping mall, you've done some shopping, you need to go home. You need to go and put down that stuff. You need to secure your valuables. You have to take cognizance of who is following you, situational awareness, target hardening. I mean, yes, you all becoming police officers out there yourselves. You all have to, police yourselves now. Police,
I hate to
police
say
your
this.
environment.
Even before, things like this, I would think about every now and then. Now I just think about it a lot more. But also, given the state of the economy, there's one silver lining with the state of the economy. I don't know if a lot of people have enough money to go shopping in multiple malls in a single day. And with the traffic, depending on where you are, you're like, listen, we go to one mall, we go home.
But could you imagine you made this shopping and you're going back to have something to eat and you come back and your car is missing? Or come on.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
That's the worst feeling in the world I can imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because every now and then the fear is there.
The fear, fear of crime.
When you forget where you parked, oh boy.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a thing.
It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before we get this crime under control. Until then, as I said, we need the assistance of the public to assist them.
Technically, I agree with you. It's just a matter of time. I just, you know what they say, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
It's the journey,
right?
yeah.
It's just the journey might take it out on all of us.
Yeah.
But hopefully again, it goes back to what I said last week, Friday. If we do our part and somebody else falls through, then at least we can say it's not our fault. But if we don't do our part, well then, to some extent,
I think, as I said, holistically, as a community, we could fight the crime.
To some extent, yes.
Yeah.
To some extent, yes. The level of violence, though,
well,
that's a whole
different other thing.
That's a whole, and to be fair to the government, to the TTPS, and to our society, it's not like we are some anomaly and the rest of the world is all hunky-dory singing Kumbaya, peace.
No.
We, in some ways, we're not as bad as many other jurisdictions, so we should at least be thankful for that.
Yeah.
But
well, I really hope it could be better.
You know what? I can't argue with that. Now, we've had several breaks, so we won't take a break. We'll open up the phone lines as we continue the conversation. We'll open the phone lines now, so you could call in, have your say. Of course, there's the whole thing with the Minister of Finance. What do you make of his statements, right? How do you interpret it? That should really be the first question, because right now we have 3 interpretations, or 4, because the media is not 100% unanimous, I believe, on what figures are pertinent to what. With regards to the costs of the airport project and what's important and how high it could be and what should we be afraid of, we have multiple interpretations of that. And the minister's interpretation is one of them. It's essentially government's defense. What are your interpretations of his interpretations? Of his definitions and semantics with regards to the wrong arithmetics? You could call in and have your say. And of course, there are other things you could call in for. This whole political brouhaha. And it's only going to continue on both sides of the aisle with regards to new candidates to go up for certain seats. The importance of this election, I don't know. Is it important? I don't know.
Well, I saw recently in the media some persons falling victim to their firearms being stolen and whatnot. This is another thing. I want to be careful. We have kids on the look at the program. Sorry. If you are a FUL holder and FUSEC holder, user, and you have a unit, secure it properly.
Yeah.
Don't have it printed against your body. What they call it, conceal it properly.
Yes.
Conceal it properly. If you're leaving the country, make sure and lodge it with the local district police.
Right.
Yeah. We are seeing this happening. People need to take a more proactive role in how they secure their units.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. You have an FUL to protect yourself, but you also, that could also make you a target to steal that said thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why private security is not always the best idea for certain things, because they themselves might also be a target for their firearms.
Yeah.
We have a caller from Tunapuna. Good morning, caller. You on there? Caller, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Morning. Go ahead.
Yeah. First and foremost, when it comes to the laws of this country, we cannot walk with the ancient laws. According to the times, they're supposed to review it and change the laws to suit what is taking place. Because you know what? Those laws not applicable at all. It's not working. And we need revision of everything. Then number two, people who want to run for jobs in the government as ministry as this and that, we're supposed to get qualified and appropriate people to know what they are doing and what they are saying. Thank you.
I think it's one of those things, and it's almost a running gag with Ashraf, where they'll every now and then an example will come out about a law that needs to be updating because it doesn't make sense or it's not effective.
We have some pretty old laws,
right? Yeah, but when the general topic comes up, like, you could never really remember what those examples are, right? But I think, especially with law enforcement, like, one of the things that probably needs to be updated is internet and whatever crime is done on the internet to be more comprehensive with regards to online crimes, right?
Well,
so, because, of course, the online space is ever evolving, so it is what it is,
because one of the laws they haven't brought into effect as yet is the, they call it the peep and tom law. What they call it again? The correct name of it is... it's basically harassment and...
Okay, so not just when you're spying, but also when you're harassing. Well, and I guess with law enforcement, some of the issues, because the policies are thus derived from the laws, so some of the issues can be the laws, which is one of the issues I think the public, those who want to bring it as an issue, are reasonable to do so. Why is the legislature not doing its part with regards to crime fighting in TNT? But I'll leave that there. We have Faisal on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Morning.
Sean, clearly, the minister tried to mislead the public of Trinidad and Tobago with his press releases. At least the first one, and then he tried to do some damage control on the second one. I heard you this morning a narrative that, the politicians would add. But if I were to assess the situation with the information coming forward, it is telling me, and I suppose it is telling John public, that the opposition, with their research, would have uncovered something massive. On the other hand, I want to think that, there is fire in the valley there, boy, like them snake and them taking cover. How come you could have a cabinet note that was leaked? So there is definitely some disgruntlement within the organization itself, and people within the party much dissatisfied with Mr. Imbert and his conduct towards the populace of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, caller. I'll say this. Almost everything coming out of the party, the PNM, for the last couple of months, potentially, could be political infighting. I'm not necessarily going to spell out what these things are, but the last couple of months, 4 to 6 months, I can't remember. I don't want to bring up what the earliest thing that comes to mind, because I don't want to put that out there. But yeah, so all of these things with regards to the cabinet leak, etc., etc. Some people would say even the hot mic incident. It's all the political infighting. The hot mic incident, I'm not entirely sure, because I don't think it was up to the Minister of Finance to keep the mic open. But to say that he did not necessarily help the situation, I could see an argument for a case of that being reasonable. So I don't know if the opposition leader uncovered something massive. This just could literally be the government. This is the irony. This whole airport thing, it's an issue not because they're cost overruns, because the cost overruns themselves could be relatively reasonable. It's not necessarily corruption. Could be mismanagement, could just be the way how it went, right? it's a complicated thing to build an airport. It's not like building a police station or a fire station, and that itself is not so simple, right? The problem is how it's managed, the communication. And a lot of the questions we have for the Minister of Finance is not on the project itself per se anymore. Now it's about why did he say what he said, and why did he try to defend what he said the way that he did. And then I wouldn't say that the minister is trying to mislead, because I'm not one to assume the worst, and I don't want to get into any trouble, because I don't have evidence that he actually did. But to some extent, right, when he said that he wasn't concerned about a cabinet note being leaked, who believed that? Clearly, this is something serious. That part about it is very serious. He's saying he's not concerned. It's him trying to do damage control and not speak on the issue. But that's basically the very same behavior and communication pattern that has gotten them into trouble time and time again, including now. So, and that being the case, it makes me question, and it goes back to your point, caller. You said that he was trying to mislead the public. I can't say that you were wrong, because I can't disprove that. But I have no proof that he did. But given the fact that he did try to say, I'm not concerned about a leak, it's out there, what am I going to do? Like, on some level, I have a hard time taking what he said there about the leak seriously. It's just damage control. So then what else is just damage control? So I'll leave that there, right? I think one of the key things is that if the opposition leader uncovered anything major, what is the crime? This is one of the things that the government said that was effective. What is the crime? Because I don't know, ASP Arun, I mean, obviously a political accusation is not just going to automatically turn into an investigation. You need to have like something specific to investigate, some sort of intelligence, a starting point, not just, investigate it.
Well, with any investigation, you must have a starting point. You must have a report. You must have information that could lead to an investigation. I'm not too familiar with...
But in a case like this where a politician has a claim,
right,
if they're serious about it, they would make a report.
If any citizen has a claim...
Well, any citizen. But of course,
they have to make a... They should make a report.
People assume the politicians speak in the public, and it should be so.
Right.
But no, they would have to make a report too.
No, well, there's no mandatory reporting clause for information. So you unless it's a sexual offense against a minor, where you have to make a report, that's called a mandatory reporting clause. You have any information about a robbery or anything, you don't have to make a report.
When you say, if you're just given information?
Yeah, you don't have to make a report.
Well, okay, all right, fair enough. But the point is, you still have to come forward with something.
You don't have to come forward with anything.
If you want something to be investigated, if you have an accusation.
If you want something to be investigated, then you come forward and you...
There you go. Okay, we have San Fernando on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, ASP.
Morning.
ASP, I would like you to give us a little more information on for people how to handle, because this is something that we have seen getting more and more prominent in the society. You used to hear about it and families feuding for property. Now it seems as if it's a bigger implication in terms of people getting murdered for property. Could you advise the public on how to handle issues of internal family disputes when it comes to property, in terms of how they go about it with respect to the police and how they to report it, and what kind of things that they should be cautious of in terms of, because this seems to be getting more and more prominent in this country. Have a good day.
Yeah, thanks. It has always been prominent and prevalent in Trinidad, where land disputes has always incurred some kind of violence or disturbance and whatnot, and the police has to always get involved. I remember when I used to work in station in CID, on a Sunday or even a holiday was when apparently people would drink, and this is when the explosion would happen, and you have to respond to a murder or land dispute that would have some type of violence in it.
Because the family gathering.
And that is when it used to happen. And it all stems from the inheritance. So, you know, when people have land, they want to pass it on to another generation. They don't do so properly. So it really stems from that, and it's left in abeyance. So you're left with who have a claim of right. So everybody feels that they have a claim of right. Yes. Husband, wife, parents, children, siblings, grandchildren. Everybody believes they have a claim of right, and when they believe they have a claim of right, they take it to a different level. It's always best for the courts to deal with it. Now, when you make a report of land dispute to the police would normally and most oftentimes tell you it's a private matter, and more than likely it is a private matter because the police can't determine or make a judgment on a particular parcel of land and property. Right. So what you can do is you make a report to the police to reflect that you have a claim of right or there was a dispute, and then you take this into the legal hands of an attorney, to the justice of the peace, to the magistrate, by whatever means, summons, and whatever judicial process that's available. You have the low courts and you have the high courts to deal with land disputes.
But if things turn violent,
it becomes a crime, and then the police must investigate. So therefore, when the information reaches to the police, whether by a report or a call or however, then the police must intervene and deal with the situation.
Say it hasn't gone to murder, but physical assault happened. No. You should call the police one time.
You should call in the police to quell the disturbance and to deal with whoever was assaulted, carry them for medical assistance.
And then I know this can happen in the States, but say the family member who has an issue with you, a disagreement with you over a land dispute or property dispute, they come to your house or your workplace, and they're insisting to speak to you and you don't want to speak to them.
No, there's a form of harassment. So
you could call the police on that?
You can call the police for that. Under Chapter 1108, offense against the person, there's a clause, or there's a section, I believe it's 33, I'll look for it just now, that speaks to harassment, where a person on more than one occasion, so it must happen at least on at least one occasion or more, where they embark on a particular type of behavior that causes some harassment to you. So the act specifies what is a harassment, and then you can have a protection order or the person charged for harassment.
Could you also call the police if they potentially trespass your property?
Of course.
I know they're family, but
once there are clear lines of demarcation to your property and somebody trespasses, you can call the police.
And that could be the first time
and
in that
case? It doesn't matter, Okay. Harassment and trespass is two different.
Different.
Yeah.
But applicable in this case.
Yeah.
We have Dabadi on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Hi, pleasant morning to you, Sean, and the officer there present. Sean, why you continue picking on the PNM so, boy? You can't have a show without talk about the government. Leave the PNM out there for one show now. All right, to the police now. Looking at standard operating procedures. Why isn't the police looking at proper standard operating procedures? Each time, 9 out of 10 times they go on a report, is always some mischief with the community. And you're not seeing anything positive continuously coming out of the policemen when they are approaching a report that they go into, and most likely in a hotspot area, like they go with a preconceived notion that, hey, you see I going inside here, I going inside and back a day, is that I will end up shooting somebody or some kind of foolishness. Can the police be more professional? And I'm speaking from the perspective of a retired police officer here, and it hurts me. It hurts me when I see a clip and the policeman approaches me things wrongfully. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, caller.
Well, as you said, you're a retired police officer, so you would have some experience in that field. I want to say that your experience and my experience could be totally different. I've experienced many officers going into hotspot areas, we call hotspot areas, and having a totally different experience. I myself used to work in the task force in different divisions. And you would go in with preconceived notions or beliefs, but when you go into these communities, there are a lot of good people that you interact with.
Yeah.
And once you behave and interact with these persons at a professional level, you gain their respect, and you end up getting more done with that respect as opposed to behaving in the alternative way as the caller just identified. Now, unfortunately, the clips you see are not of those positive interactions with police. What you often see are the unfortunate situations that arise, and most of the times it doesn't stem from the beginning. You see the interaction later on. And it's unfortunate. I would like to apologize for those interactions that would have looked or appeared to be, bad.
I have a comment to follow up on that. I understand where you're coming from, but we do have Mover, so I'll take the call first. Mover, good morning. You on there?
Good morning, gentlemen. Sean, I want to respond to that last caller. That caller there's a thing called freedom of speech. I don't know if he's aware of that and what it entails. If you wish to continue to speak about the PNM, criticize the PNM, that is your right. And there are some of us who feel and support your right and would also want to be part of that criticism, etc. Right? This caller must understand that is a right. If you are telling lies on his party, he can call in. He has that right also, and he can debunk those lies. But you can't be calling and be complaining. Well, but of course, he keeps calling and complaining that he needs to understand something. He needs to broaden his mind and understand there's a thing called freedom of speech. And in closing, I want to tell him this also. I am 70 years old. I have known the PNM since I was a child. Okay? Bad roads, poor maintenance, that's the PNM. Lack of a public transport, reliable public transport service, that is the PNM. Lack of dealing with laws like PH, etc., that is the PNM. Lack of policing, right? Laws like littering, loitering, jaywalking, failure to enforce those laws, especially in those crucial first 25 to 30 years, which made these things become the norm. That is the PNM. Failure to deal with noise pollution. That is the PNM, sir. So if it is you have a problem with people speaking about the PNM, get your party to deal with these things, right? Let them deal with corruption in public offices. Okay. Let them deal with that.
Okay,
that is the PNM. Thank you.
Caller. We have the last call for the morning, Diego Martin, and then I'll answer to that too. Good morning, caller, on here.
Good morning to you, Mr. Paul, and to the honorable policeman there.
I'm not accustomed to you being last, Mr. Diego Martin, but okay.
First, last, and last first. Listen to this one, and this is directly pointed to the officer there. He's saying that there is a reduction or a suggested reduction in crime for his November?
He didn't say.
Right, okay, well, the perception outside and the narrative from the police, the DCP, I didn't want to bring in the DCP because I have a question mark about his ability. Yeah. No, I want to connect some dots, and this is really, really heart-wrenching. What did the police service did during November? You know what the police service did during November? They call in all the kits, you know, those vests and things from all the police officers.
Operational uniform.
Right. Is that a nexus between the reduction on all of those things? Because let's face it, that is an alarming thing for all of a sudden for you to get a reduction, and you pull back all those apparatus from the paraphernalia of the police. You know what that's saying? That is an indictment of the police if there's a connection, you know. You're saying there are criminal elements who are imitation police or who are real police are going to have nice morning. Think about what I'm saying.
Thank you, caller. I mean, you kind of answered your own statement there. So we have to some extent, get more than just a correlation to put those two things together. I'm not comfortable putting those two things together because we've seen months where the murder rate dipped before. Even the record setting, yes, some of the months they were higher than this year, some of the months were lower than this year. But 1 month is not a data point of relevance.
But there wasn't any data indicating that men dressed in police operational uniform were committing murders to that extent. That
okay,
to any extent.
But they have fake police.
No, but there isn't any data saying that any other month there were operationally officers wearing operational uniform kill anybody.
No, but I think it comes back to the fake police situation, because there have been a couple of high-profile cases, I think, before this year, in the last half of this year, where so-and-so was attacked or whatever.
No, but if you're looking at the murder rate, if you're looking at the dip in the murder rate, and you're trying to relate it to operational uniform, there isn't any nexus that could be drawn from that. It's either you were murdered by somebody wearing operational uniform or not, and there isn't any data saying that these two things.
All right, I won't debate the point. I could see why the commissioner did what she did, but again, yes, I think it's the benefits, we assume there are benefits to a policy decision she made, are more long-term than short-term, I would imagine.
Well, only time will tell.
Exactly, right? So again, we need more data just to know if it had any impact whatsoever on anything. And I don't see how it would do so in the short run. And even if you disagree with what the ASP just said, most murders did not have any sort of police uniforms involved anyway. Let's make that clear. Even if there is information that the police might not have, right, for whatever reason. A lot of these murders we know has nothing to do with this situation. So to say that the whole thing dropped because of it, you know, that basic premise by itself, I don't know how much I would agree with it. Now, with that said, it was crime, not murders, as ASP said when the caller was talking, that the DCP said dropped, not overall crime, but the murder rate. So I think to the caller that says why I always talk about the PNM, well, unfortunately, they're the ones with the bad press. Even the UNC is in the press, but they don't get a lot of bad press. I did say, and maybe I wasn't as harsh to the UNC, but they have a very high figure for the airport issue, and the press has like a middle ground figure, and the government has a low figure.
I think that caller was joking about.
No, he wasn't joking.
He was okay.
So I do think that the opposition is making mistakes on this, but I don't know to what extent, because, you know, again, it's how you determine accounting. But yeah, the PNM, so much so that even now the section of MPs, it's the PNM where you're getting stories about, oh, well, this MP never showed up. The Prime Minister, they went to Martin West, and a lot of the people, not all, but a lot of the people said, hey, he hasn't been around. He abandoned us. Nothing is being done. We don't see him. He doesn't do anything for us. We have things that need to be done, things that need to be fixed and unfixed in his own constituency. Now, granted, he's the Prime Minister. Would he have the time to come back to constituency? And this is why I say maybe the Prime Minister should not be an MP. And maybe Cabinet Ministers should not be MPs. This is one of the reasons why I had that position well before constitutional reform came out. That's number one. Now, the thing though is, as much as I have freedom of speech to criticize the PNM, the caller has freedom of speech to criticize me criticizing the PNM. It works both ways, right? At the end of the day, he is free. He's not trying to stifle me. I think his statements from his more recent statements, not his most recent, but his more recent calls, have more or less indicated the fact. He is just expressing himself and his displeasure, which he is free to do. And to some extent, I'm not going to say that he shouldn't, because the day that I say that, I'll start to not have a check on my own commentary. And it's always good to get contrarian opinions, whether they're good, bad, or the others, so that I will always be forced to reassess my positions. So I'm not going to fault him for his positions and his statements. I don't have to agree with it. He doesn't have to agree with me. But it is what it is. To some extent, yes, he has a pertinent point, because always being negative about one side more than the other too much, that is where you start with having a bias. No matter how well-intentioned you are, that could be the start of a bias. So he's right to bring it up. And then it forces me to do the right thing of, okay, have I gone too far? Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. At the very least, I need to assess it, even if the conclusion is I have not, so that I'm not just blindly assuming I have not. And with that said, I think with regards to the bad police officers, what ASP Arun said was correct. You're not going to see a lot of people run to make a video on social media about professional interaction, because it's going to be very private and quiet and, you know, toot sweet. It's going to be over in a flash with little fanfare. Officers that are busy doing their job are way too busy to make noise and to be distracted from doing their job. officers who are kind of doing the wrong things are the ones that are going to make the most noise. It's similar to customer feedback for a private business. You're not going to see a whole set of customer feedback on the good. Some of the good you'll see, because people will speak out about the extremes, but a lot of what you're going to see is mainly going to be the bad.
Yeah.
So it's just human nature. And this whole thing about social media revealing things, it's a double-edged sword if we kind of don't understand how, and this is a marketing thing. This is where a management degree helps. Because these are things that we have known before social media with regards to feedback and how people respond to things. Also, negative press sells. So it's going to be more highlighted. It is what it is. At the end of the day, if it was all bad, the system would have collapsed years ago.
But continue to take the videos and whatnot.
Exactly.
Nothing wrong with that. Continue to show your videos, express yourselves, record the officers whenever they're performing badly. And highlight it.
I think
Nothing is wrong with that.
It's the same thing to what I just said. You know, it might not always seem fair, but you do need to have the check.
Yeah, you need to have that check
on the excess
system,
at the end of the day. And sometimes, if you make a video and it ends up being a good interaction, hey,
you can show that as well. Yeah.
Post that too.
Maybe you could post both.
Right. So, well, I mean, hopefully if you had a good interaction, you wouldn't have a bad one at the same time. Although that can happen. That could happen. More than one officer and they don't necessarily have the same approach. That can happen.
Yeah, that could happen.
Right? I've seen that from the States more than once where the superior cleans up the subordinate's mess. But I'm not saying that happens here.
It happens.
I got you. He said it, folks. He said it. All right. So with that said, thanks to all the callers who called in on the various topics. And keep up with the passion at the end of the day. Moreover, including you, because I appreciate you calling in as well.
I just want to extend condolences.
Yes.
Right. So on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we want to extend condolences to the family of Corporal Luke of the Special Victims Department. Her mother, Jean Luke, passed away recently. And the reason I just wanted to highlight it is that this officer has been doing a tremendous and commendable job during her service, especially in the Special Victims Department. And one of the things, I don't know her mother personally, but one of the things I could tell you about her, the mother who has passed away, who I don't know, is that when Miss Luke, Corporal Luke, needed to perform her duties and leave home, she would often call her mother, she would depend on her mother to take over the kids.
Right.
And the mother would always be there for her.
Right.
And we would like to say thanks to the family for that, for being there for us as the TTPS, to support the TTPS and our victims and our survivors of crime, so that Corporal Luke could have performed her duties. It was yeomanship work, and it shows that it's not just the police officers that perform duties, it's the entire family that comes together and the community that comes together and supports the officers that go out there to perform duties on behalf of the state. Not
to turn it into a talking point, but we lament the fact recently on this show that the village is no longer there. But I mean, this is a sign that that's not always the case.
That's not always the case.
They are still in some cases.
I work with a number of officers. I personally know their families who don't know me. I know them by name. I can tell you which officer is married to which soldier and whatnot. I could tell. I don't know if they pass here now. I wouldn't even know them.
You wouldn't know their face.
I wouldn't know their face, but I know that they exist. We hear the phone conversation and we know they support the police officers that they are related to. And we want to tell all of them thanks, especially the family of Miss Luke, Corporal Luke, and our condolences and support go out to her during this time.
And I will end saying, I hazard, I guess, that is an example of the village having a positive outcome on her daughter and her grandchildren. So, condolences, and we pray for all of those who are continuing to serve even into their old age, to try to help out and be that community for their loved ones so that they could support the wider work they do. With that said, make today a good day, as Mr. Shah would always say. Remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. Stay safe out there, especially during Christmas. Don't take it for granted. We'll probably speak about this again until we take the break for the holidays. But regardless, always remember, even if it's a police officer who you might be disagreeing with, when interacting with him, it's nice to be nice. Keep that as your main modus operandi. Things might work out better for you. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
This holiday season, bring the magic of Christmas home with WESN's Joy of Christmas. Relive timeless classics from the laughter to the heartwarming moments that make the season unforgettable.
Hey, light the lamp, not the rat, light the lamp, not the rat!
Santa's coming to town! Oh my God!
Oh, poor baby.
Experience the joy of WESN special productions, crafted to bring you new stories and cherished memories. This year, let WESN